Hey, I wasn't planning to record this right now, but after living with the HT-S60 for weeks as the core of my home setup, I just have to tell you what this actually feels like when you use it every day. This isn't for someone who shrugs and says sound is fine. This is for the kind of person who notices when dialogue feels boxed in, when bass lacks weight, when effects don't place you in the scene. You know deep down that real audio should move you instead of just sitting behind the picture, and you feel it every time your current setup falls short. Before you go any deeper, take a moment to check the current price and availability. Systems this complete don't stay steady in stock or price for long, and hesitation is exactly how the right moment slips away. You know that moment, maybe during a big movie scene where the score felt lifeless, or a game where footsteps didn't sit right, or even a show where voices felt distant, and you caught yourself thinking, this should feel bigger? That's when you realize you've outgrown compromise. Your old speakers weren't bad, they just weren't alive. Once you feel what a proper surround system brings, there's no going back. Putting the HT-S60 in place didn't just add channels, it flooded the room with intention. Dialogue suddenly felt anchored and clear. Ambient cues didn't just come forward, they wrapped around me. Explosions didn't just make noise, they inhabited space. Music had texture instead of blur. The sub didn't just rumble, it pushed air with purpose, grounding every scene instead of just boosting low end. I've lived with this in real moments, late-night film marathons where every subtle cue finally mattered, weekend gaming where positional audio actually informed how I reacted instead of confusing me, playlists that sounded fuller and richer instead of thin and hollow, and everyday TV where voices came through crisp without chasing the remote. This system doesn't just play audio, it sculpts it so every moment feels intentional and connected to what you're watching. When you're right there in the experience, you don't think about numbers or badges. You care about how it makes you feel in the room. Don't stall thinking I'll wait for a better deal or maybe next month. That hesitation is exactly what leads to future regret, the kind where, months later, you look back and think, I could have been enjoying this experience all along. If you're wondering whether surround with real rear speakers and Dolby Atmos / DTS actually makes a difference, let me reframe that. Once you feel sound that exists around you instead of just blasting forward, anything weaker feels like a veil between you and the moment. This doesn't just output audio, it places it with clarity, direction, and impact. Here's something most people don't expect, it doesn't just make things louder, it makes them meaningful. You start catching layers you never noticed before, the ambience around a score, the subtle texture of effects, the depth of dialogue that suddenly feels anchored in space. Sound feels dimensional, not flat. Dialogue feels natural, not distant. Music feels textured, not thin. Effects feel layered, not blurred. Your whole room finally feels part of the story. Yeah, it needs some space to open up fully, and once you hear real surround depth, anything flatter feels hollow. Eventually you stop cycling through endless options and pick the one that already feels right, the one you keep thinking about when you plan your next movie night or game session. So check the current price and availability now. If you've been waiting for the sign that your entertainment deserves real presence, immersive clarity, and sound that actually matches what you're watching and feeling, this is it.